Welcome, Michelle Taylor, President and CEO of United Way of Delaware. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, things change quickly over the years. Can you give us just a quick refresher on who United Way of Delaware is serving these days?
I'd be happy to do that. So United Way of Delaware for the last several years, right, really work to serve those that come from our most marginalized communities. We like to call them our promise communities, and in Delaware and in Salem County. I don't know if you know, we're now in Salem County. And so there are about 8 communities, 17 zip codes that we primarily focus on, although we have a vision for all Delawareans and the people of Salem.
Well, Michelle, how is it that as we get older, we get busier these days? I guess look at our president-elect and his wife, and they're not slowing down.
Not at all.
Well, let's jump into, because we have a limited amount of time, let's talk about COVID, these special circumstance we find ourselves in. And you and I were talking about children before we started. Can you tell us about the learning pods United Way's involved in?
Yeah, I sure can. So, the learning pods are really meant to what I would consider to be an equity part of the equation. A lot of parents still have to work every day on the front line. They may, or even if they're working from home, the example I just gave you, right, as parents may still have to work, but they have to be on Zoom themselves. And what are the supports that our kids need? And so the learning pods are meant to be a place that parents can take their children in a more structured environment so that they can ensure they're actually on the Zoom every day with their teachers, that they're doing their assignments, that they're given additional supports and services that they need to excel. And so they have those learning pods all around the country. And so we're pleased and proud that we have stood some up with our partners, again, in our promise communities, so that they are available to a broader base of kids and with the same supports at little to no cost for parents.
Michelle, can you give us an example of where a learning pod might be and how it might look?
Absolutely. So I'll just give you, the neighborhood house has learning pods that stood up, and they have a really structured day, all of them, LACC, the Weston Neighborhood House, the Boys and Girls Club, those that we're working with, First State Community Action down in Sussex, is that, parents drop their kids off maybe from 8 to, I'm just making this up, 8 to 8:15, maybe they're still getting something to eat, some breakfast. And then, they make sure that they're on their classroom time, that they are doing their work. They have breaks in between, they get lunch, they'll probably have an afternoon snack. They get additional supports for tutoring. If they need tutoring, they'll get additional wraparound and support should they need. We were just talking about this emotional behavioral support services that are available to the children, and even supports for families should they need it. So the intent is, how do we wrap around enough supports to kids to make sure, right? Sometimes it's just the technology, making sure they're on their Zoom, they know how to get on their Chromebook, that they know how to get in the classrooms. They also interact with the teachers. I think this is one of the best parts. The teachers are aware of where the kids are. So they are working with the teacher at the learning pod themselves to make sure that they know what information Michelle needs this week, what is her assignments. And so they are also communicating between the teacher and the parent to make sure that the child is best supported.
It's just sort of an alternative educational setting, with smaller numbers, it sounds like, and with the teacher remotely providing the lesson. What about your Delaware 211 helpline? We're just going to jump all
around. That's fine.
Yeah.
So Delaware 211 helpline is available right now, 7 days a week to support our Delaware residents. We also are connected to the New Jersey 211 over in Salem, but the intent here is to be available. We've seen over a 70% increase in calls from people because of increased needs related to COVID. I always say COVID, which is a health pandemic, also caused an education pandemic and an economic pandemic, right? So the needs are much greater right now. So people can call 211, and we've added additional, not just expanded the days and the hours, but we also expanded a service. So we knew that parents, again, in this virtual environment might need additional supports. They may not know what to do. And so we have something we call 211 press 4. So you're really dialing 211 and you're pressing the 4. But it is a line specifically geared towards parents to help them to answer any additional questions they may have, additional supports, additional needs. In the beginning, it could have been parents saying they didn't have Chromebooks or they didn't have the internet, or they needed tutoring. Their kids were behind and they needed additional supports. But it's really meant to be a go-to for parents, so the parents know they're not in this journey alone.
Now, COVID, as we've learned, is an equal opportunity oppressor, affecting everyone from our seniors, whether they're at home or in nursing care facilities, down to our kids. And, you know, some of the cruelest fallout, I think, is economic, and how people already sort of working at lower levels of income now are completely out of work. There's food insecurity, there's shelter insecurity with people now being evicted. Can you talk about your Stand By Me program and how that is helping people?
Absolutely. And there's also, you know, utilities are in that line and space too,
Sure,
right? For what
sure.
families need. And particularly as it gets colder, they'll become even more important. Not that they don't need electric. And the kids need the electric to be able to get the internet, to be able to make sure they stay connected. But Stand By Me, which was generally has been focused on helping families go from what I would consider from stability to empowerment. You know, how do we help more families to be able to reduce debt and build savings and create assets, buy home ownerships? But late, due to COVID, we really are starting to focus on Stand By Me to help people that are in crisis. So we have doubled down on the number of coaches that we have, and the coaches are serving more as navigators, but can they help individuals
Sure.
to be able to stay in, you know, to pay their bills, their monthly bills. We still want them to do a budget, because that budget is kind of one-on-one to be able to say, what do you owe every month? But the intent is, how can Stand By Me help more families to think about how do they navigate during this time and this crisis, and then hopefully work with families to go back from crisis to some level of stability. And so we're hoping, we've seen an influx in this, and we've working with great partners. But this is where, to your point, the unfortunate need for the food insecurities, utilities, housing, they don't just happen one month. They're happening month after month after month. And what we also found was, even though our utility companies, the mortgage companies, the landlords, there was that moratorium. And so they graciously, right, did not disconnect people or evict people, but they did not forgive it either. And so a lot of people have come, you know, we're not out of COVID, but have come to this phase of COVID, generally owing more debt than they did in the beginning.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. Was United Way of Delaware able to get any CARES relief, or are you dwindling down the funds that you have now under more pressure because of COVID?
That is a great question and a great plug. So we were able to raise money. So right from the beginning, United Way, the Delaware Community Foundation, Philanthropy Delaware, and Dana raised incremental funds to help to alleviate some need in the community. But right now, with the thanks of the state and Newcastle County, you know, the nonprofit community had was given up to $25 million to be able to invest back in the community. So our partners could get reimbursed for additional costs related to COVID for services, or for additional program needs that they had related to COVID. And so that's still available right now in the community, and we are working pretty aggressively, because I think the funds still have to be spent by 12/31, but to get that funding out in the community. It does have restrictions on it. So on the surface, it sounds like it's a lot of money, but we are trying to get creative about how do we make sure that the resources get to our agency partners and ultimately to the individuals in the community.
You know, I've heard a lot of people as we enter the holiday season saying, I can't think about gifts this year. I'm just going to make donations to organizations that need it. So to close out our very short conversation, and I hope we'll have more soon, what can folks who want to support you do? Do you still make the employee
Absolutely.
contributions?
Yeah, people can still give through their workplace, which we hope they do. They can also, on our website, they can always give to United Way, so that donation page is available. Right now, we too are raising money. Normally, we do a lot around a holiday sleigh and helping to give out turkey drives and but right now we are doing a holiday drive, and we're asking people to donate funds that will be used to provide gift cards for kids for toys or for families for food that will help them get through the holidays. And so that also is available on our website at www.uwde.org.
We will post that throughout this interview. I did think of one more thing. I'm curious. Do you have any idea what the total number of individuals and families you serve in Delaware and Salem County might be?
Yeah, so we had that number overall. So we serve about a third of Delawareans get served in our community, based of given the needs that we have overall right now, or touched just by our donations alone.
Wow.
And then with COVID, with what we did with Delaware Community Foundation, I know like 1.2 over 1 million meals were actually to help to be distributed during this time period.
Wow.
Just that we were able to support organizations like the Food Bank and West End and Latin American Community Center, First State, a lot of senior centers. I got to give a quick plug before I close for senior centers. You mentioned seniors earlier. The seniors, a lot of them had to close shop early on because of COVID, but they have been absolutely relentless about ensuring that our seniors still have meals delivered, their prescriptions delivered to their homes, right? Access to the grocery store, and making sure that they still have access to physicians and medical services. And so a big, big plug to our senior serving organizations.
Michelle Taylor, together we are strong. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak today, and I'll be back with you real soon.
Thank you.
All right. Best wishes.
All right.